In the crisp autumn of 1989, high in Colorado's Rocky Mountains, a hiker named Daniel Ruiz trekked alone along a remote trail in the San Juan National Forest. The air was sharp with the scent of pine and fallen leaves, the peaks dusted with early snow, glowing, faintly under a sky heavy with stars. Daniel, an experienced outdoorsman in his late 20s, relished the solitude of the wilderness, his backpack light, his steps steady on the rocky path. He'd planned a 3-day loop, camping under the open sky, far from the noise of the world. As dusk settled, painting the mountains in shades of purple and gold, he felt the forest embrace him, a quiet sanctuary where time seemed to slow. Daniel set up camp in a small clearing, the ground soft with pine needles, a stream murmuring nearby. He built a modest fire, its crackle blending with the rustle of leaves, and sat to eat a simple meal, the stars emerging one by one above. The night was clear, the Milky Way a bright ribbon across the sky, and Daniel felt a deep peace, the kind only the mountains could offer. As he sipped water from his canteen, a light caught his eye, a single pale glow moving through the trees, low and steady, like a lantern carried by an unseen hand. He stood, thinking it might be another hiker, but the light moved too smoothly, too silently, weaving through the white forest with an unnatural grace. He called out, his voice soft against the quiet night, but no one answered. The light grew brighter, splitting into 2, then 3 orbs, each pulsing with a soft, silvery glow that seemed to hum faintly, a sound that vibrated in the air. Daniel's heart quickened, but he felt no urge to run. The orbs floated closer, hovering just above the ground, their light casting long shadows across the clearing. His fire dimmed, its flames shrinking as if starved of oxygen, and his watch, a rugged timepiece he'd worn for years, stopped ticking, frozen at 8:17 p.m. The air felt heavy, charged with a strange energy, like the moment before a thunderstorm, yet a calm settled over him, soothing his instincts, as if the light itself was whispering for him to stay. The orbs moved closer, circling the clearing, their hum growing into a low, resonant pulse that Daniel felt in his chest. He stepped toward them, drawn by a curiosity he couldn't explain, his boots crunching on the pine needles. The forest seemed to blur, the trees fading into a haze of light, the stars above streaking into lines. Then, darkness, the clearing, the fire, the night sky, all vanished into a quiet void. When Daniel came to, he was sitting by his tent, the fire cold, the sky still dark but heavier, as if hours had passed. His backpack was gone, later found a mile away, its contents untouched but scattered. His hands ached, and when he looked, he saw faint burns on his palms, red and triangular, like marks from a tool he didn't recognize. Daniel packed up at dawn, his mind clouded, trying to piece together the missing hours. His watch was still stopped, his compass spinning aimlessly, refusing to point north. The burns on his palms faded slowly, leaving no scars but a lingering sensitivity. He hiked back to his car, the forest no longer feeling like a sanctuary, its silence now heavy with questions. Back home, Daniel kept the experience to himself, unsure how to explain it. He was a practical man, not given to wild stories, but the dreams that followed were vivid, almost too real. He saw himself floating in a warm, glowing chamber, surrounded by tall figures with slender limbs and eyes that seemed to hold the night sky. They showed him images, Earth from above, its mountains and rivers glowing under a canopy of stars. The dreams came nightly, fragments of a bright space, smooth walls, and a sensation of weightlessness. Daniel began sketching. What he saw, grids of lights, stars connected by lines that pulsed with energy, like a map of the cosmos. He noticed small changes. His sleep was restless, his appetite diminished, and he found himself staring at the sky, searching for the orbs he'd seen. He confided in a friend, a park ranger with an interest in local lore, who suggested hypnosis to unlock missing time. Daniel agreed, curious but cautious, wanting to understand what had happened in that clearing. Under hypnosis, Daniel's words flowed like a gentle stream, describing a craft that felt alive with energy. He spoke of being lifted from the clearing, weightless, into a space with walls that glowed softly, like moonlight on snow. The figures were tall, their forms graceful, their eyes large and dark, watching him with a quiet intensity. They communicated without words, their thoughts flowing into his mind, calm and clear, urging him to relax. They showed him a screen, a map of stars that moved like a living thing, points of light connected by threads that shimmered with purpose. One star, brighter than the rest, felt important, though he didn't know why. The beings, he said, were gentle, their touch cool as they examined his hands, their movements precise but unhurried. They showed him images of the earth, its peaks and valleys bathed in a soft glow, as if sharing a perspective no human could know. The experience felt timeless, a moment stretched into eternity. Yet, when he returned to the clearing, the night was unchanged, the forest silent. The hypnotist noted Daniel's calm, his lack of fear, as if the encounter had left him with wonder rather than dread. He spoke of the star map as a gift, a glimpse of something vast and beautiful, though its meaning remained a mystery. Daniel's life changed after that night. He hiked less, his love for the mountains tempered by the memory of the orbs. He became a stargazer, spending evenings on his porch, his eyes tracing the constellations, wondering if the beings were still out there. He kept his sketches, fill a notebook with patterns that felt familiar yet foreign, like a language he couldn't read. The burns on his palms faded, but he felt them in his dreams, a reminder of the touch he couldn't explain. He shared his story only with a few, including a UFO researcher who noted similarities to other cases, the orbs, the missing time, the star maps, but Daniel stayed out of the spotlight, his life rooted in the quiet of his small town. The story of Daniel's strange night spread quietly through the hiking community, whispered around campfires and trailheads. Some called it a trick of exhaustion, others a sign of something greater. The clearing in the San Juan forest became a place of legend, its pines holding secrets only the stars could tell. Daniel's encounter, whether real or dreamed, was a moment when the universe reached down, touching a hiker who loved the wild. As you listen, picture that mountain clearing, the fire's glow fading, the orbs floating above the trees, their light soft and inviting. Imagine the forest wrapping around you, its quiet, a gentle embrace, pulling you into the mystery of that night. The hum of the craft, the stars above, the stillness of the mountains, they blend into a soothing rhythm, carrying you toward a place of calm. Daniel's story is one of wonder, of a fleeting connection to something beyond the earth, a glimpse of the cosmos that lingers like a dream. The star map, the figure's silent thoughts, the missing hours, they remain, a whisper from the unknown. Daniel returned to his life, his trails, his mountains, but a part of him stayed with the stars. As you drift toward sleep, let the forest's rhythm carry you, its pines whispering softly, blending with the glow of distant lights. The universe is vast, its secrets endless, but tonight it feels close. Its rhythm, a gentle lullaby, guiding you into the calm of the night. In the quiet of a summer night in 2005, in a small Ohio town, a librarian named Emily lay in her bed, the world outside her window, hushed save for the soft chirping of crickets. Her modest home sat at the edge of town, where fields stretched toward the horizon, and the stars shone bright in the clear rural sky. Emily, a woman in her early 30s with a love for books and quiet evenings, had always found comfort in the stillness of the night. Her bedroom was a sanctuary, its walls lined with shelves, the faint scent of old paper mingling with the cool air drifting through an open window. She drifted toward sleep, the rhythm of the crickets a gentle lullaby, unaware that this night would become a memory she'd carry forever. It was just past midnight when Emily stirred, a strange sensation pulling her from the edge of sleep. The room felt different, heavier, as if the air itself had thickened. She opened her eyes, her gaze settling on a figure standing at the foot of her bed, tall, slender, with smooth, pale skin that seemed to glow faintly in the dark. Its eyes were large, dark, and unblinking, holding a depth that felt both distant and intimate, like staring into the night sky. Emily's body felt heavy, her limbs unwilling to move, but she wasn't afraid. A calm washed over her, warm and soothing, as if the figure's presence was a reassurance, a silent promise that she was safe. The figure raised a hand, its fingers long and delicate, and touched her forehead. The touch was cool, like a breeze on a summer night, and Emily's mind filled with images, flashing visions of distant planets, their surfaces glowing with colors she couldn't name. She saw stars spinning in patterns, connected by threads of light that pulsed like a heartbeat. The figure didn't speak, but its thoughts flowed into her, clear and gentle, urging her to watch, to understand. The room around her faded, the walls of her home dissolving into a space that felt vast yet comforting, its boundaries soft and glowing like the inside of a dream. Emily couldn't say how long she was there in that otherworldly space. Time seemed to stretch, a moment becoming an eternity, yet it felt fleeting, like a single breath. The figure guided her through the visions, showing her a map of stars that seemed alive, each point of light, a story, a world waiting to be known. She felt weightless, as if floating in a sea of light, her body no longer bound by the earth. The figure's eyes met hers, and she sensed curiosity, not judgment, as if it was learning from her as much as she was from it. The images faded, and the room returned, her bed solid beneath her, the crickets still chirping outside. When Emily woke, sunlight streamed through her window, morning already settling over the town. Her clock read 3:14 a.m., 3 hours later than it should have been, its hands frozen as if time had paused. She sat up, her body heavy but unharmed, her mind clear yet filled with fragments of the night. Her nightgown was slightly askew, its hem dusted with a fine silvery powder that shimmered before brushing away. Her forehead tingled where the figure had touched her, a faint warmth lingering like a memory of the encounter. The room looked unchanged, her books neatly shelved, but the air felt different, as if it held a secret only she could sense. Emily went about her day, shelving books at the library, her routine a comfort against the strangeness of the night. But the memory lingered, vivid and unshakable. She began to dream, night after night, of the same figure, its eyes watching her from a sea of stars. In her dreams, she floated through vast spaces, guided by the figure, who showed her constellations that shifted and danced, forming patterns she couldn't name. The dreams were peaceful, not frightening, as if the figure was a friend, not a threat. Emily, a private woman, kept the experience to herself, afraid of what others might think, but she started a journal, filling it with sketches of the star, maps and notes about the figure's silent presence. Weeks later, unable to ignore the dreams, Emily confided in a colleague, a history professor with an interest in the unexplained. He suggested hypnosis to uncover what lay beneath the fragmented memories. Under hypnosis, Emily's words came softly, describing a craft that felt warm and alive, its walls glowing with a soft, sourceless light. She spoke of being lifted from her bed, weightless, into a space where the air hummed with energy. The figure, she said, was gentle, its touch cool as it guided her through the craft. It showed her a screen, a map of stars that pulsed like fireflies, connected by lines that seemed to trace paths through the cosmos. One star, brighter than the rest, felt important, though she didn't know why. The figure communicated without words, its thoughts flowing into her mind, calm and clear, urging her to watch, to remember. It showed her images of the earth, its fields and rivers glowing under a canopy of stars, as if sharing a perspective no human could know. The experience, she said, was brief but timeless, a moment stretched into eternity. When she returned to her bed, the night was unchanged, the crickets still singing outside. The hypnotist noted her serenity, her lack of fear, as if the encounter had left her with wonder rather than dread. Emily spoke of the star map as a gift, a glimpse of something vast and beautiful, though its meaning remained a mystery. Emily's life continued quietly, her days filled with books and the soft rhythm of her small town. But she changed in subtle ways. She spent evenings on her porch, gazing at the sky, her eyes searching for the stars from her dreams. Her journal grew, its pages filled with intricate sketches of constellations and notes about the figure's gentle presence. She found a small mark on her wrist, a faint, triangular scar she hadn't noticed before, fading slowly over weeks. She never sought attention or claimed to have answers. She only wanted to hold on to the memory, to understand what had visited her that night. The story of Emily's nighttime visitor spread quietly through her town, whispered among friends and library patrons. Some called it a dream, others a sign of something greater. Her home, with its shelves of books and view of the fields, became a place of quiet. Legend, its walls holding a secret only the stars could tell. Researchers who heard her story noted similarities to other cases. The figure, the missing time, the star maps. But Emily stayed out of the spotlight, her life rooted in the ordinary, even as she carried the extraordinary within her. The night sky over Ohio, vast and endless, became a canvas for stories of the unexplained. Emily's encounter, whether real or dreamed, was a moment when the universe reached down, touching a woman who loved the quiet. As you listen, picture her. Bedroom, the crickets singing softly, the figure standing in the dark, its eyes glowing like stars. Imagine the light, warm and inviting, wrapping you in its glow. A quiet call to wonder. Star map, the figure's silent thoughts, the missing hours. They linger, a whisper from the cosmos. Emily returned to her books, her nights, her stars, but a part of her stayed with the visitor, As you drift toward sleep, let the night's rhythm carry you. It's quiet, blending with the glow of distant lights. The universe is vast, its secrets endless. But tonight, it feels close, its rhythm a gentle lullaby, guiding you into the calm of the night. In the wide, arid expanse of New Mexico's desert in the summer of 1982, a rancher named Jose Morales tended his land under a sky that stretched forever. His ranch, a modest spread of scrub and cattle, sat miles from the nearest town, where the silence of the desert was broken only by the lowing of his herd and the whisper of the wind. Jose, a man in his 50s with hands weathered by years of work, was no stranger to the rhythms of the land. He lived alone, his days filled with the steady tasks of ranching, his nights spent under a canopy of stars that felt close enough to touch. On this particular night, the air was warm, the desert still, and Jose was unaware that the stars held a secret waiting to unfold. It was just after 10 p.m. when Jose stepped onto his porch, a cup of coffee in hand, to check on his cattle. The night was clear, the stars bright against the inky sky, their light casting faint shadows across the sandy earth. As he scanned the horizon, he noticed a glow low in the distance, a cluster of lights moving slowly, too steady for a plane, too bright for anything earthly. At first, he thought it might be a neighbor's truck, but the lights rose, hovering above his pasture, pulsing with a soft amber glow that seemed to hum faintly, a sound that carried through the still air. Jose set his cup down, his eyes fixed on the lights, his curiosity outweighing the unease creeping into his chest. The lights moved closer, 3 orbs weaving in a slow, deliberate pattern, their glow casting an eerie sheen over the desert. Jose stepped off the porch, his boots crunching on the dry ground, drawn toward the pasture where the lights hovered. The hum grew louder, a low vibration that seemed to resonate in the earth itself, steady and soothing, like the pulse of a distant drum. His cattle, usually restless at night, stood silent, their heads lowered as if lulled by the sound. The air felt heavy, charged with a strange energy. Yet Jose felt no fear, only a quiet pull, as if the lights were inviting him to witness something beyond his understanding. The orbs descended, their light bathing the pasture in a soft silvery glow that made the desert seem dreamlike, its edges softened by the radiance. Jose stood at the fence, his hands gripping the weathered wood, watching as the lights merged into a single, larger glow, a craft, disc-shaped and smooth, its surface reflecting the starlight like polished stone. It hovered silently, no more than 50 feet above the ground, its presence calm but commanding. Jose's breath slowed, his mind clear, yet heavy, as if the craft's hum was weaving a spell, urging him to let go. Then, darkness. The desert, the lights, the stars. When Jose came to, he was in his bed, the morning sun filtering through his curtains. His clock read 6:12 a.m., hours later than it should have been, its hands frozen at 10:47 p.m. the night before. His boots, left by the door, were dusted with a fine metallic powder that shimmered before brushing away. His body felt heavy, his mind clouded, as if he'd walked miles in his sleep. When he checked the pasture, he found a perfect circle, 30 feet wide, etched into the ground, the grass flattened in intricate spirals that seemed too precise for any human hand. The cattle avoided the circle, grazing around it as if it held a presence they could sense. Jose tried to return to his routine, checking fences and feeding his herd, but the memory of the lights lingered, His dreams were vivid, filled with images of a bright, sterile room, its walls smooth and glowing, like the inside of a star. He saw figures, tall, slender, with large, dark eyes that watched him with quiet curiosity. They moved around him, their hands gentle, their touch cool as they examined his arms, their movements precise but unhurried. They showed him a screen, a map of stars that pulsed with life, connected by lines that seemed to trace paths through the cosmos. The dreams felt like memories, each one clearer than the last, leaving Jose with a sense of wonder rather than fear. He kept the experience to himself at first, a private man who valued his solitude. But the circle in the pasture drew attention. Neighbors noticed it, whispering about lights in the sky, and soon word spread to a local researcher who studied unexplained phenomena. Jose confided in her, describing the lights, the craft, the missing hours. She suggested hypnosis to uncover what lay beneath the fragmented memories, and Jose, curious to understand, agreed. Under hypnosis, his words flowed like a desert breeze, painting a picture of a craft that felt alive, its hum a soothing rhythm that wrapped around him. He described being lifted from the pasture, weightless, into a space with walls that glowed softly, like moonlight on water. The figures were gentle, their eyes conveying a calm curiosity, as if they were learning from him as much as he was from them. They showed him a star map, a grid of lights that moved like a living thing, stars connected by threads that pulsed with energy. One star, brighter than the rest, felt significant, though Jose couldn't say why. The figures communicated without words, their thoughts flowing into his mind, clear and gentle, urging him to watch, to remember. The experience, he said, was timeless, a moment stretched into eternity. Yet, when he returned to his bed, the desert was unchanged, the night still. The hypnotist noted Jose's calm, his lack of fear, as if the encounter had left him with a quiet wonder. He spoke of the star map as a gift, a glimpse of something vast and beautiful, though its meaning eluded him. The circle in the pasture remained, untouched by wind or rain, its spirals a silent testament to that night. Jose's cattle never grazed there again, and he found himself avoiding the spot, though he couldn't say why. He began sketching the map from his dreams, filling a notebook with patterns that felt familiar yet foreign, like a language he couldn't read. The story of Jose's circle spread through the desert towns, whispered in bars and feed stores. Some called it a hoax, others a sign of something greater. The pasture, with its strange spirals, became a place of quiet legend, drawing curious visitors who stood at the fence, staring at the ground. Researchers noted similarities to other cases, the lights, the missing time, the star maps. But Jose stayed out of the spotlight, his life rooted in the rhythms of his ranch. He became a stargazer, spending evenings on his porch, his eyes tracing the constellations, wondering if the figures were still out there, watching from the vastness. The desert, with its endless skies and silent sands, holds its secrets close, revealing them only to those who listen. Jose's encounter, whether real or dreamed, was a moment when the universe reached down, touching a rancher who loved the land. As you listen, picture that desert night, the stars shining above, the lights hovering over the pasture, their glow soft and inviting. Imagine the hum, steady and soothing, wrapping you in its rhythm, a quiet call to wonder. The star map, the figures highlight thoughts, the circle in the earth. They linger, a whisper from the cosmos. Jose returned to his cattle, his land, his stars, but a part of him stayed with the lights. As you drift toward sleep, let the desert's quiet embrace you. Its horizon, blending with the glow of distant stars. The universe is vast, its secrets endless, but tonight it feels close, its rhythm a gentle lullaby, guiding you into the calm of the night. In the clear, cool night of a California autumn in 1997, an amateur astronomer named Lily Chen set up her telescope on a hillside, overlooking the Santa Ynez Valley. The sky was a tapestry of stars, unmarred by city lights, its vastness a familiar comfort to Lily, who had spent countless nights charting constellations. Her small campsite was simple: a blanket, a thermos of tea, and her telescope, its lens pointed toward the heavens. Lily, a teacher in her early 30s with a passion for the cosmos, felt at home under the stars, their light a map she could read like a book. The air was crisp, scented with sage and earth, and the night was quiet save for the soft chirping of crickets as she prepared to lose herself in the sky. It was just past 11 p.m. when Lily noticed a star that didn't belong. It was brighter than the others, moving slowly across the sky, its glow steady and silver, unlike the flicker of a plane or satellite. She adjusted her telescope, her breath catching as she tracked its path. The object wasn't a star at all. It was a craft, disc-shaped and smooth, its surface reflecting the starlight like polished metal. It hovered silently, no more than a few hundred feet above the hillside, its edges sharp against the night. Lily's heart quickened, but her hands stayed steady, her curiosity stronger than her unease. She watched as the craft pulsed with a soft, rhythmic glow, its light bathing the hillside in a gentle, silvery sheen. The air grew heavy, charged with a faint hum that seemed to rise from the ground itself, a low vibration that resonated in her chest. Lily's telescope trembled slightly, its tripod unsteady, and her watch, a simple digital one she wore for stargazing, stopped at 11:09 p.m. The crickets fell silent, the night unnaturally still, as if the world was holding its breath. The craft descended, its glow intensifying, and Lily felt a strange calm settle over her, like a blanket softening the edges of her thoughts. The hum was soothing, a quiet rhythm that seemed to invite her to let go, to surrender to the moment. She stood, her eyes fixed on the craft, its light drawing her in like a moth to a flame. The world blurred then, the hillside fading into a haze of light, the stars streaking into lines above. Darkness followed, a quiet void that swallowed the night. When Lily came to, she was sitting in her car, parked at the base of the hill, her telescope misaligned, pointing at an empty patch of sky. The dashboard clock read 12:14 a.m., over an hour later than it should have been. Her thermos was empty, though she didn't remember drinking, and her notebook, where she logged her observations, was filled with sketches. She didn't recall drawing intricate patterns of stars, connected by lines that pulsed with an energy she could almost feel. Her hands were dusted with a fine metallic powder that shimmered before brushing away. Lily drove home, her mind clouded, trying to piece together the missing hour. The night felt different, as if the stars themselves were watching her. Back in her apartment, she found her dreams filled with vivid images. A bright, glowing space, its walls smooth and warm, like the inside of a star. She saw figures, tall and slender, with eyes that held the depth of the cosmos. Their presence calm, but curious. They showed her a map, a grid of lights that moved like a living thing, stars connected by threads that shimmered with purpose. The dreams were peaceful, not frightening, as if the figures had shared a secret with her, a glimpse of something beyond the earth. Lily kept the experience to herself at first, a private woman who valued her quiet life. But the sketches in her notebook haunted her, their patterns unfamiliar yet precise, like a language she couldn't read. She noticed small changes. She was more thoughtful, her gaze often drifting to the sky during the day, her sleep restless with dreams of the craft. She confided in a friend, a fellow astronomer, who studied unexplained phenomena, and he suggested hypnosis to uncover the missing time. Lily agreed, curious to understand what had happened on that hillside, her love for the stars urging her to seek answers. Under hypnosis, Lily's words flowed like a gentle breeze, describing a craft that felt alive with energy. She spoke of being lifted from the hillside, weightless, into a space with walls that glowed softly, like moonlight on water. The figures were gentle, their eyes large, and Dartser, watching her with a quiet intensity. They communicated without words, their thoughts flowing into her mind, calm and clear, urging her to watch, to remember. They showed her a screen, a map of stars that pulsed like fireflies, connected by lines that seemed to trace paths through the cosmos. One star, brighter than the rest, felt significant, though she didn't know why. The beings, she said, were kind, their touch cool as they examined her hands, their movements precise but unhurried. They showed her images of the Earth, its valleys and oceans glowing under a canopy of stars, as if sharing a perspective no human could know. The experience felt timeless, a moment stretched into eternity. Yet, when she returned to her car, the night was unchanged, the hillside silent. The hypnotist noted her serenity, her lack of fear, as if the encounter had left her with wonder rather than dread. Lily spoke of the star map as a gift, a glimpse of something vast and beautiful, though its meaning remained a mystery. Lily's life continued quietly, her days filled with teaching and her nights with stargazing, but the encounter changed her. She spent more time with her telescope, her eyes searching for the craft, the stars from her dreams. Her notebook grew, its pages filled with sketches of constellations and patterns that felt like memories. She found a faint mark on her wrist, a small, triangular scar that faded slowly, a reminder of the touch she couldn't explain. She shared her story only with a few, including a UFO researcher who noted similarities to other cases, the craft, the missing time, the star maps. But Lily stayed out of the spotlight, her life rooted in the stars she loved. The story of Lily's dream spread quietly through the astronomy community, whispered at star parties and observatories. Some called it a trick of exhaustion, others a sign of something greater. The hillside in Santa Juanes became a place of legend. It's quiet, slopes holding secrets only the stars could tell. Lily's encounter, whether real or dreamed, was a moment when the universe reached down, touching a woman who lived for the sky. As you listen, picture that California hillside, the telescope pointed at the stars, the silver craft hovering above, its light soft and inviting. Imagine the hum, steady and soothing, wrapping you in its rhythm, a quiet call to wonder. Lily's story is one of mystery, of a fleeting connection to something beyond the earth, a glimpse of the cosmos that lingers like a dream. The star map, the figures, silent thoughts, the missing hour, they remain, a whisper from the unknown. Lily returned to her telescope, her stars, her dreams, but a part of her stayed with the craft. As you drift toward sleep, let the night's rhythm carry you, its stars shining softly, blending with the glow of distant lights. The universe is vast, its secrets endless, but tonight it feels close, its rhythm a gentle lullaby, guiding you into the calm of the night. In the warm summer of 1976, on the glassy waters of Lake Michigan, a family of 4 set out for an evening of boating under a sky painted with stars. The Wilsons, Mark and Ellen with their children, 9-year-old Tim and 7-year-old Amy, had rented a small Edo cabin near the lake, a yearly tradition to escape the city and bask in the quiet of the water. Their boat, a modest cruiser, glided smoothly, its engine a soft hum as Mark steered toward the open lake. Ellen sat at the bow, her hair catching the breeze, while Tim and Amy giggled, trailing their hands in the cool water, the stars reflecting like scattered diamonds on the surface. The night was calm, the air scented with pine and lake mist, and the family felt wrapped in the peace of the moment, unaware that the sky held a mystery waiting to unfold. It was just past 9 p.m. when Ellen noticed a light on the horizon, brighter than the stars, moving steadily across the sky. At first she thought it was a plane, but it lacked the familiar blink of navigation lights, its glow a steady silver that pulsed faintly like a heartbeat. She pointed it out to Mark, who squinted, suggesting it might be a helicopter or a buoy's beacon. Tim and Amy, curious, stood too. Watch, their small faces lit by the starlight. The light grew closer, descending toward the lake, its glow casting a soft sheen over the water. The boat's radio crackled, the music fading into static, a low hum that seemed to echo the light's pulse. Mark tried to adjust the dial, but the static only grew, a sound that vibrated in the air. The light split into 3 orbs, each hovering above the lake, their silvery glow reflecting on the water like liquid moonlight. The boat's engine sputtered, then died, leaving the Wilsons adrift in the sudden silence. The air felt heavy, charged with a strange energy, like the stillness before a storm. Tim clutched Amy's hand, but neither child cried. A calm settled over the family, soothing their instincts to panic, as if the orbs were whispering for them to stay. The water was still, the stars above blurred, and the orbs moved closer, their hum a low rhythmic pulse that resonated in the family's chests, a sound as comforting as it was strange. The orbs circled the boat, their light bathing the family in a cool, radiant glow that made the world feel dreamlike, its edges softened by the radiance. Ellen reached for Mark's hand, her heart steady but her mind racing, while Tim and Amy stared upward, their eyes wide with wonder. The hum grew louder, a soothing vibration that seemed to wrap around them like a lullaby sung by the stars. Then, darkness. The lake, the boat, the orbs, all vanished into a quiet void. When the family came to, they were on shore, their boat tied to a dock near their cabin, the sky still dark but heavier, as if hours had passed. The dashboard clock read 1:22 a.m., nearly 4, hours later than it should have been. Mark checked the boat, finding no damage, but the fuel tank was lower than expected, as if they'd traveled farther than planned. Ellen's sweater was dusted with a fine metallic powder that shimmered before brushing away. Tim and Amy were unharmed, their faces calm but distant, as if they'd shared a secret they couldn't yet voice. Their watches were stopped, frozen at 9:14 p.m., the moment the orbs appeared. The family walked back to their cabin, the lake lapping softly behind them, its quiet unchanged. In the days that followed, they tried to piece together the night, but the missing hours were blank. a gentle fog in their memories. That week, Tim and Amy began drawing, their crayons tracing identical images. Tall, glowing figures with large, dark eyes standing in a bright room with walls that shimmered like water. They spoke of light people who showed them stars, their voices calm but certain, as if recounting a favorite story. Ellen and Mark listened, unsure what to make of it, their practical minds grappling with the children's clarity. Ellen noticed a faint mark on her wrist, a small, triangular scar that faded slowly, while Mark found scratches on his, as if he'd walked on rough stone. Their dreams were vivid. Ellen saw herself in a glowing space, weightless, surrounded by figures who moved with quiet grace. Mark dreamed of a map, a grid of lights that pulsed like stars, connected by lines that seemed to trace paths through the sky. The family kept the experience private, afraid of ridicule, but the dreams persisted, drawing them back to that night on the lake. In the stillness of an Arizona night in the spring of 2010, a retiree named Arthur Bennett sat in his backyard, the desert stretching out beyond his small adobe home. The sky was a vast canvas of stars, their light sharp against the dark, a sight Arthur cherished after years of city life. Now, in his late 60s, he had moved to the desert for its quiet, spending his evenings with a cup of tea, watching the constellations shift above. His backyard was simple: a wooden chair, a small table, and a telescope he rarely used, preferring the unaided eye to feel the sky's enormity. The air was warm, scented with creosote and sage, and the night was calm, the only sound a faint rustle of wind through the cacti, unaware that the stars held a secret waiting to unfold. It was just past 10 p.m. when Arthur noticed a light moving across the sky, brighter than the stars, its glow a steady silver that pulsed, faintly, like a distant heartbeat. At first, he thought it was a satellite, but it moved too smoothly, too deliberately, weaving a slow arc above the desert. He set his tea down, his eyes following the light as it grew closer, descending until it hovered over his neighbors. Empty field, no more than 100 yards away. The light took shape, a craft, disc-shaped and smooth, its surface reflecting the starlight like polished stone. It was silent, its presence calm but commanding, and Arthur felt a quiet curiosity, his heart steady as he watched from his chair. The craft hovered, its edges sharp against the night, glowing with a soft, rhythmic light that seemed to hum faintly, a sound that carried through the desert air. Arthur's radio, playing softly on the table, crackled and fell silent, the music replaced by low, pulsing static. The air felt heavy, charged with a strange energy, like the moment before a desert rain. His watch, a simple analog he wore, and it had died, stopped at 10:13 p.m., its hands frozen. The hum grew louder, a soothing vibration that resonated in his chest, wrapping around him like a gentle breeze. Arthur felt no fear, only a pull, as if the craft was inviting him to witness something beyond his understanding. The craft descended lower, its light bathing the field in a cool, silvery glow that made the desert seem dreamlike, its edges softened by the radiance. Arthur stood, his boots crunching on the sandy ground, drawn toward the fence that separated his yard from the field. The hum was a rhythm now, steady and calm, like the pulse of the earth itself. The stars above blurred, streaking into lines, and the world seemed to fade, the desert dissolving into a haze of light. Then, darkness. The field, the craft, the night sky, all vanished into a quiet void, When Arthur came to, he was back in his bed, the morning sun filtering through his curtains, the clock reading 6:08 a.m., nearly 8 hours later than it should have been. Arthur sat up, his body heavy but unharmed, his mind clouded with fragments of the night. His watch was still stopped, its hands stuck at 10:13 p.m. His chair in the backyard was tipped over, as if he'd left in a hurry, and his tea mug was empty, though he didn't remember drinking. When he checked the field, he found faint marks in the sand, delicate, swirling patterns that seemed too precise for wind or weather. His hands tingled, and when he looked, he saw a faint triangular mark on his palm, like a burn that didn't hurt, fading slowly over days. The desert was unchanged, the cacti standing silent. But Arthur felt different, as if a piece of him had lingered in the stars. He tried to return to his routine, tending his small garden and watching the sky, but the memory of the craft stayed with him. His dreams were vivid, filled with images of bright, glowing space, its walls smooth and warm, like the inside of a star. He saw figures tall, slender, with large, dark eyes that watched him with quiet curiosity. They showed him a screen, a map of stars that pulsed with life, connected by lines that shimmered with purpose. In his dreams, they showed him the Earth, its deserts and oceans glowing, under a canopy of stars, but also something more. A vision of the planet in a distant future, green and peaceful, as if sharing a hope he couldn't fully grasp. The dreams were calm, not frightening, as if the figures had shared a gift with him. Arthur, a private man, kept the experience to himself at first, unsure how to explain it. But the dreams persisted, each one clearer. The star map etched into his mind like a memory. He began sketching what he saw, filling a notebook with patterns of lights and lines, their shapes unfamiliar yet precise. He noticed small changes. He was quieter, his evenings spent staring at the sky, his heart lighter, as if the vision of the future had left him with a sense of peace. He confided in a neighbor, a retired teacher with an interest in the unexplained, who suggested hypnosis to uncover the missing time. Arthur agreed, curious to understand what had happened in that field. Under hypnosis, Arthur's words flowed like a desert stream, describing a craft that felt alive with energy. He spoke of being lifted from the field, weightless, into a space with walls that glowed softly, like moonlight on sand. The figures were gentle, their eyes conveying a calm curiosity as if studying him with care. They communicated without words, their thoughts flowing into his mind, urging him to watch, to remember. They showed him a star map, a grid of lights that moved like a living thing, stars connected by threads that pulsed with energy. The vision of the Earth's future was vivid, a world of harmony, its deserts blooming, its skies clear, as if the figures were sharing a possibility, not a promise. The beings, he said, were kind, their touch cool as they examined his hands, their movements precise but unhurried. The experience felt timeless, a moment stretched into eternity. Yet, when he returned to his bed, the desert was unchanged, the night still. The hypnotist noted Arthur's serenity, his lack of fear, as if the encounter had left him with wonder rather than dread. In the quiet of a September night in 1961, Betty and Barney Hill drove through the winding roads of New Hampshire's White Mountains. The couple, weary from a vacation in Canada, was heading home to Portsmouth. The moon hung low, casting a pale glow over the forested hills. Their dachshund, Delcy, slept in the back seat, the hum of their Chevy Bel Air the only sound breaking. The stillness. Betty, a social worker with a sharp mind, and Barney, a postal worker with a practical streak, were an ordinary couple, unremarkable in their daily lives. Yet, this night would etch their names into the annals of the unexplained, a story that would linger, like a whisper in the wind. It was just after 10 p.m. when Betty noticed a bright light in the sky. At first she thought it was a star, perhaps a planet, shining, brighter than the rest. But it moved, darting across the sky in a way no star could. Barney, skeptical, suggested it was a plane, maybe a satellite catching the moonlight. He kept his eyes on the road, his hands steady on the wheel. But Betty couldn't look away. She reached for the binoculars in the glove compartment, peering through the windshield. The light grew larger, closer, its glow shifting, from white to a soft, pulsing amber. It wasn't a plane. It wasn't a star. It was something else entirely. They pulled over near Indian Head Resort, a quiet spot where the mountains loomed like silent sentinels. Barney stepped out, binoculars in hand, to get a better look. The air was cool, the forest hushed, save for a faint hum that seemed to vibrate through the ground. Through the lenses, Barney saw a craft, flat, disc-shaped with glowing windows along its edge. It hovered silently, no more than 100 feet above the trees. He could make out shapes inside, figures moving with purpose. His heart raced, but his feet felt rooted to the earth, as if drawn to the light. Betty joined him, her breath catching, as she saw it too. The craft was enormous, its surface smooth and metallic, reflecting the moonlight like a polished stone. The hum grew louder, a low, rhythmic pulse that seemed to resonate in their chests. Delcy whimpered in the car, her small body trembling. Betty and Barney stood frozen, their minds grappling with the impossible. The craft tilted slightly, as if observing them, and then it moved closer, descending until it was just above the road. Barney felt a strange calm wash over him, a sensation that dulled his fear, like a lullaby sung in a language he didn't understand. What happened next was a blur, a gap in time that neither could fully explain. They remembered climbing back into the car, driving in. Silence, the light trailing them through the mountains. The road seemed to stretch endlessly, the stars above blurring into streaks. Then, darkness. When they came to, they were 35 miles south, near Ashland, with no memory of how they'd gotten there. The dashboard clock read 2 a.m. 2 hours had vanished, slipped through their fingers like sand. Their clothes were scuffed, Betty's dress torn at the hem, Barney's shoes scraped as if he'd walked on rough stone. Delcy was curled tightly in the back, her eyes wide. They drove home in silence, the weight of the night pressing on them. Over the next few days, they noticed strange things. Betty's dress had faint, powdery stains that wouldn't wash out. Barney's watch had stopped, its hands frozen at 10:47 p.m. They both felt an unshakable unease, a sense that something had happened, something they couldn't grasp. Nightmares plagued them, vivid, dreams of bright rooms, cold tables, and figures with large, dark eyes. Betty dreamed of being shown a star map, a grid of glowing points connected by lines, as if charting a path through the cosmos. Barney saw himself lying still, unable to move, as voices spoke, in his mind, calm but commanding. They tried to move on, to bury the unease in routine, but the memories wouldn't fade. Betty began keeping a journal, scribbling, fragments of her dreams, a needle, a gentle touch, a map of stars she couldn't place. Barney more reluctant, admitted to feeling watched, as if the night sky held eyes of its own. They reported the sighting to the Air Force, hoping for answers, but were met with dismissive explanations, weather balloons, optical illusions. Yet the missing time, the dreams, the stains on Betty's dress couldn't be explained away so easily. In 1963, seeking clarity, they turned to Dr. Benjamin Simon, a psychiatrist skilled in hypnosis. Under his care, they relived that night, their voices trembling as they spoke of what lay hidden in their minds. Betty described being taken aboard a craft, led by beings with smooth gray skin and eyes that seemed to see through her. They were kind, she said, but clinical, like doctors performing a routine exam. They showed her a map, pointing to a star system she later identified as Zeta Reticuli, a place no human should know. Barney recalled lying on a table, his body heavy, as the beings examined him with tools that hummed softly. They spoke without words, their thoughts flowing into his mind, urging him to stay calm. The sessions were grueling, pulling memories neither wanted to face. Yet they corroborated each other's accounts, down to the smallest details, the texture of the craft's walls, the faint glow of the instruments, the beings' measured movements. Dr. Simon remained skeptical, suggesting the memories might be shared delusions born of stress or imagination. But Betty and Barney held firm. They weren't seeking fame or attention. They wanted only to understand. Their story, detailed and consistent, became one of the first widely documented alien abduction cases, a cornerstone of UFO lore. Cheated. As the years passed, the Hills returned to their quiet lives, but the experience never left them. Betty became an advocate, sharing their story with researchers, while Barney remained more reserved, haunted by the weight of the unknown. They found strange marks on their car, faint scratches that hadn't been there before. Betty's star map, drawn from memory, baffled astronomers, its accuracy uncanny for someone with no formal training. The couple's sincerity, their lack of motive for fabrication, lent their story a weight that lingered even among skeptics. Their tale spread, sparking debates, books, and a film. Some saw it as proof of visitors from beyond, others as a curious footnote in human psychology. But for Betty and Barney, it was neither proof nor puzzle. It was their truth, a moment when the universe reached down and touched their lives. They carried it quietly, like a secret shared with the stars. As you listen to their story, imagine that quiet New Hampshire road, the mountains standing watch, the sky vast and endless. Picture the light above, soft and pulsing, drawing you into its glow. The Hills experience, whether real or dreamed, invites us to wonder what lies beyond the stars we see, what mysteries wait in the spaces we cannot touch. Let their story wrap around you, a gentle reminder of the unknown that surrounds us all. The craft, the beings, the missing hours, they fade into the night, but their echo remains. Betty and Barney drove home, their lives forever changed, carrying a piece of the cosmos within them. Perhaps as you drift toward sleep, you can feel it too, the vastness of the universe, its secrets just out of reach, yet close enough to dream. Let the stars guide you now, their light a soft lullaby, carrying you gently into the quiet of the night. In the vast, empty stretches of Nevada's desert, where the night sky feels endless and the stars burn bright, a truck driver named Maria Delgado drove alone on Route 375. It was October 1994. the air cool and crisp, the kind of night where the world seems to hold its breath. Maria was no stranger to long hauls, her rig a familiar companion through countless midnight journeys. The hum of the engine, the rhythm of tires on asphalt, and the faint glow of her dashboard were her only company. The radio played softly, a country tune fading in and out as the signal wavered in the remote expanse. Maria sipped coffee from her thermos, her eyes scanning the dark horizon, unaware that this night would become a story she'd carry forever. It was just past 2 a.m. when she noticed a light in her rearview mirror. At first, she thought it was another vehicle, perhaps a car with high beams cutting through the darkness. But the light was too steady, too bright, and it moved in a way that didn't match the sway of a car on the road. It hovered, trailing her rig at a distance, its glow casting an eerie reflection on the chrome of her truck. Maria adjusted her mirror, squinting to make sense of it. The light pulsed faintly like a heartbeat, its color shifting from white to a soft, almost liquid silver. Her stomach tightened, but she brushed it off, telling herself it was a trick of the desert night. She pressed the gas, hoping to outrun the oddity, but the light kept pace, gliding effortlessly behind her. The radio crackled, the music dissolving into static, a low hiss that seemed to pulse in time with the light. Maria turned the dial, searching for a signal, but found only silence. The air inside the cab felt heavy, charged, like the moment before a thunderstorm. She glanced at the dashboard. Her speedometer flickered, the needle jumping erratically. The engine sputtered, a low groan replacing its steady rumble. Her foot pressed harder on the pedal, but the truck slowed, as if caught in an invisible current. The light grew brighter now, filling the cab with a cold, radiant glow that made her skin prickle. Maria pulled to the side of the road, her hands trembling as she gripped the wheel. She didn't know why she stopped. It felt less like a choice, and more like something pulling her to a halt. The light was above her now, no longer in the mirror but directly overhead, its brilliance washing out the stars. She couldn't see its shape, only its intensity, like a second moon too close to the earth. The hum was louder now, a deep vibration that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere, resonating in her bones. Maria's breath slowed, her fear melting into a strange, dreamlike calm, as if the light itself was soothing her, whispering for her to let go. Then everything went dark. The cab, the road, the sky, all vanished into a void. When Maria came to, she was still in her truck, parked on the roadside, the engine silent. The dashboard clock read 4:17 a.m., 2 hours later than it should have been. Her thermos was empty, its contents gone, though she didn't remember drinking. Her boots were scuffed with red dust, the kind she hadn't seen on the pavement of Route 375. Her wrist ached, and when she looked, she found faint triangular marks, like burns that didn't hurt, etched into her skin. The light was gone, the sky clear and starry, as if nothing had happened. Maria sat there, her heart steady but her mind racing, trying to piece together the missing time. She drove on, reaching her destination in silence. The radio still dead. In the days that followed, Maria felt different, as if a part of her had been left behind on that lonely road. She noticed small things. Her watch ran slow. Her sleep was restless, filled with dreams of floating in a bright, sterile room. In those dreams, she saw figures, tall, slender, with eyes that seemed to hold the night sky. They didn't speak, but their thoughts flowed into her, calm and clear, urging her to stay still. They showed her images, flashing lights, agni, grid of stars, a sense of movement through vast, uncharted spaces. She woke each time with a start, her heart pounding. But the dreams felt more like memories than fantasies. Maria didn't tell anyone at first. She was a practical woman, not given to wild stories, and she feared what others might think. But the marks on her wrist didn't fade for weeks, and the dreams grew more vivid. She found a small notebook in her truck, one she didn't remember buying, with sketches of strange symbols, curves and lines that looked like nothing she knew. Eventually, she confided in a UFO researcher she met at a diner, a man who listened without judgment. Under hypnosis, Maria relived that night, her voice steady as she described being lifted from her truck, weightless, into a craft that hummed with quiet energy. She spoke of a room with smooth metallic walls, lit by a soft, sourceless glow. The figures moved around her, their hands gentle but precise, as if studying her. They showed her a screen, a map of lights that pulsed like stars, connected by threads of energy. She felt no pain, only curiosity, as if they wanted her to understand something beyond words. The experience lasted moments, or hours, she couldn't tell. When they returned her to her truck, she felt a lingering warmth, a sense that they meant no harm. The researcher noted her story matched others from the area, a stretch of road nicknamed the Extraterrestrial Highway for its frequent sightings. Maria never drove Route 375 again. She took longer routes, avoiding the desert's empty stretches, but the memory stayed with her, a quiet weight she carried alone. She kept the notebook, its symbols a mystery she couldn't solve. Friends noticed a change in her, a new habit of staring at the sky, a softness in her voice when she spoke of the stars. She didn't seek attention or claim to have answers. She only wanted to understand what had happened, why she'd been chosen for that fleeting encounter. The story spread quietly, whispered among truckers and locals, a tale of the woman who saw the light. Some dismissed it as fatigue, a trick of the desert's vastness, but others pointed to the marks, the notebook, the missing time. Route 375 remained a place of mystery, its dark expanse a canvas for stories of the unknown. Maria's encounter, whether real or imagined, became a thread in that tapestry, a moment when the universe reached down to touch a solitary driver. As you listen, picture that endless road, the desert stretching out under a sky full of stars. Imagine the light above, its glow soft and inviting, pulling you into its mystery. Maria's story is one of wonder, of questions without answers, a glimpse into the vastness that surrounds us, the hum of the craft, the stillness of the night, the feeling of being seen. It all lingers like a dream you can't quite shake. Let it wrap around you now, a gentle reminder of the unknown that waits just beyond the horizon. The desert holds its secrets, hiding them in the shadows of its dunes. Maria drove on, her life forever changed, carrying a piece of that night within her. As you drift toward sleep, imagine the stars above, their light steady and calm, watching over you. The universe is vast, its mysteries endless, but tonight it feels close, its whispers soothing you into rest. Let the road stretch on in your mind, the light fading softly, guiding you into the quiet of the night. In the fading light of an Iowa summer evening in 1985, a 7-year-old girl named Clara wandered into her family's cornfield, chasing fireflies. The air was warm, heavy with the scent of earth and green stalks. the sky a soft purple as dusk settled over the rolling fields. Clara's parents were busy near the farmhouse, setting up a barbecue for neighbors, their laughter mingling with the clink of glasses. Clara, small and curious, slipped away unnoticed, her flashlight bobbing as she darted through the corn, her giggles echoing in the quiet. The fireflies danced ahead, tiny sparks of light that seemed to beckon her deeper, drawing her into a world where the ordinary faded and the unknown waited. The cornfield was a maze, its tall stalks swaying gently, whispering secrets in the breeze. Clara's sneakers crunched on the dry soil, her flashlight casting a narrow beam that caught the golden husks. She wasn't afraid. She loved the field, its endless rows a playground for her imagination. But as she chased the fireflies, the air grew still, the usual hum of crickets falling silent. The fireflies vanished, replaced by a single light, brighter than the rest, hovering just above the corn. It pulsed softly, a pale blue glow that seemed to hum with a rhythm she could feel in her chest. Clara stopped, her small hand clutching the flashlight, her eyes wide with wonder. The light moved closer, weaving through the stalks like a living thing. It wasn't harsh or blinding, but gentle, like moonlight on water. Clara felt no fear, only a pull, as if the light was calling her name without words. She stepped forward, the corn parting around her, the stalks bending as if bowing to the glow. The hum grew louder, a soothing vibration that wrapped around her like a lullaby. She didn't notice the time passing, the sky darkening, or the voices of her parents growing faint. The world was just her, the light, and the endless rows of corn, stretching into a dreamlike haze. When Clara's parents realized she was gone, panic set in. They called her name, their voices sharp against the quiet night. Neighbors joined the search, flashlights sweeping the field, boots trampling the stalks. Hours passed, the air growing cool, the stars bright above. Just before midnight, they found her, sitting calmly at the edge of the field, her flashlight off, her face serene. She looked untouched, her clothes clean except for a faint dusting of pollen on her shoes. When her mother scooped her up, Clara smiled, saying she'd been with shiny people who took her to a big silver house in the sky. Her parents exchanged glances, chalking it up to a child's imagination. But her words lingered, unsettling in their clarity. Clara's story came out in fragments over the next few days. She spoke of the shiny people, tall and slender, with eyes that sparkled, like the fireflies she'd chased. They were kind, she said, their hands cool and smooth when they touched her arm. They led her to a place that floated, a silver house, with walls that glowed softly, like the inside of a pearl. There she saw orbs, floating like bubbles, each one holding a tiny light that pulsed with colors she couldn't name. The shiny people showed her pictures, she said, images of stars and planets, spinning in a dance she didn't understand but found beautiful. They didn't speak, but she felt their thoughts, warm and gentle, telling her she was safe. Her parents listened, unsure what to make of it. Clara was a bright child, not prone to lying, but her story seemed too fantastical. They noticed small oddities. Her flashlight's batteries were dead, though they'd been new that morning. Her drawings, once simple, sketches of flowers and animals, now included intricate spirals and star patterns, drawn with a precision that seemed beyond her years. She pointed to one, a cluster of dots connected by lines, and called it the map they showed me. Her father, a practical farmer, shook his head. but her mother kept the drawings, tucking them into a drawer with a quiet unease. As weeks turned to months, Clara's life returned to normal, but the memory of that night stayed vivid. She'd sit on the porch at dusk, staring at the sky, her eyes searching for something no one else could see. Her parents noticed she was quieter, more thoughtful, as if carrying a secret too big for her small frame. They never pressed her, hoping she'd outgrow the story, but Clara never forgot. Years later, as an adult, she sought out a hypnotist, curious to uncover what lay beneath her childhood memory. Under hypnosis, her voice, soft and steady, she described the silver house in detail, a craft with smooth, curved walls, and a hum that felt alive. She spoke of being lifted gently, weightless, through the corn and into the craft. The shiny people, she said, were curious about her, their large eyes studying her with a kindness that made her feel special. They showed her a screen, a map of stars that glowed like fireflies connected by threads of light. One star, brighter than the rest, felt like home to them, though she didn't know why. They touched her hand, their fingers cool, and she felt a warmth spread through her, a sense that they meant no harm. The experience, she said, lasted only a moment, but when she returned to the field, hours had passed, the night deeper than before. Clara's account under hypnosis was detailed, consistent, and untouched by fear. She described the craft's interior as warm, the air humming with a soft energy that made her feel safe. The shiny people didn't speak with words, but their thoughts flowed into her mind, images of vast spaces and distant worlds. She felt chosen, not taken, as if they'd shared a secret with her, a glimpse of something beyond the earth. The hypnotist noted her calm, her lack of distress, as if the memory was a treasure she held close, not a trauma to overcome. The story of Clara's night in the cornfield spread quietly through the small Iowa town. Some called it a child's fantasy, others a sign of something greater. The field itself became a place of whispered legend, its rows drawing curious glances from passers-by. Clara's drawings, preserved by her mother, were studied by researchers who noted their similarity to star maps described in other abduction cases. Yet Clara herself remained untouched by the debate. She grew up to be an artist, her work filled with cosmic imagery, spirals, stars, and glowing orbs that seemed to pulse with life. Her encounter, whether real or dreamed, left a mark, not of fear, but of wonder. Clara never felt alone after that night, as if the shiny people were still out there, watching from the stars. The cornfield, once just a backdrop to her childhood, became a gateway to the unknown, a place where the universe had reached down to touch a curious girl. Her story, simple yet profound, invites us to imagine what lies beyond the fields we know, in the vastness of the night sky. As you listen, picture that Iowa evening, the corn swaying gently, the fireflies fading into a single glowing light. Imagine Clara, small and fearless, stepping toward the unknown, her heart open to its mystery. The hum of the craft, the glow of the stars, the quiet of the field, they wrap it around you now. A soft embrace from the cosmos. Let the story carry you, its images blending with the night, guiding you toward a place of calm and wonder. The field holds its secrets, whispering them to those who listen. Clara returned to her family, her life forever touched by the stars. As you drift toward sleep, imagine the sky above, its light soft and steady, watching over you. The universe is vast, its mysteries endless. But tonight, it feels close, its glow a gentle lullaby, carrying you into the quiet of the night. In the early hours of a spring morning in 2001, off the rugged coast of Maine, a fisherman named Tom Carver set out alone on his small boat, the Sea Whisper. The ocean was calm, its surface like glass, reflecting the first hints of dawn, a soft pink glow on the horizon. Tom was a man of routine, his life shaped by the tides and the seasons, his hands calloused from years of hauling nets. The Sea Whisper bobbed gently, its engine a low hum as he steered toward his usual fishing grounds, a quiet stretch where the water was deep and the fish plentiful. The air was cool, salted with the scent of the sea, and the world felt still, as if holding its breath for what was to come. As Tom cast his nets, the sky lightened, the stars fading into the growing dawn. He sipped coffee from a battered thermos, his eyes scanning the water for signs of movement. Then, something caught his attention. A ripple on the surface, not far from the boat. At first, he thought it was a fish, maybe a seal, but the ripple grew, the water parting as a silver disk broke through. It rose silently, hovering just above the waves, its surface smooth and reflective like polished metal catching the first rays of sunlight. Tom froze, his hands gripping the net, his heart steady but curious. The disk was unlike anything he'd seen. No sound, no wake, just a quiet presence that seemed to belong to the sea and the sky. The disk hovered, its edges sharp against the dawn, glowing with a soft, pale light that pulsed gently, like the rhythm of the ocean itself. Tom's radio, usually crackling with static or the voices of other fishermen, went silent. The air felt thick, heavy with a strange energy, like the moment before a storm. He stood on the deck, his boots planted firmly, watching as the disk tilted slightly as if observing him. The light grew brighter, bathing the boat in a cool, silvery glow that made the world feel dreamlike, as if the boundaries of reality were softening. Tom felt no fear, only a pull, a quiet urge to keep watching, to let the moment unfold. The hum began then, a low, resonant sound that seemed to come from the water itself, vibrating through the boat and into Tom's chest. It wasn't loud, but it was everywhere, a soothing pulse that calmed his thoughts. He couldn't say why, but he felt drawn to the disk, as if it was speaking to him without words. The sea around him was still, the waves frozen, as if time itself had paused. Then, darkness. The world blinked out, the disk, the sea, the sky, all gone. When Tom came to, he was slumped on the deck, his nets empty, the sun high in the sky. Hours had passed. Though he had no memory of them, his watch was stopped, its hands stuck at 5:13 a.m., the moment the disk appeared. Tom sat up, his body heavy but unharmed. The Sea Whisper rocked gently as if nothing had happened, but the deck felt different, scratched with strange symbols, faint lines and curves etched into the wood. They weren't deep, but they were precise, like nothing he could have made. His thermos was still warm, but the coffee inside was gone. His hands, when he looked at them, were dusted with a fine metallic powder that shimmered in the sunlight before brushing away. The sea was calm again, the disk gone, the sky clear and blue. Tom started the engine, his mind racing, trying to piece together what had happened, but the missing hours were a blank, a quiet void in his memory. Back on shore, Tom kept the experience to himself. He was a private man, not one for tall tales, and he feared the ridicule of his fellow fishermen. But the symbols on the deck haunted him, their shapes lingering in his mind. That night he dreamed of a vast, star-filled expanse, a place where the sea met the sky, in an endless horizon. In the dream, he saw maps, grids of light, stars, connected by lines that pulsed with energy. Figures moved around him, tall and shadowy, their presence calm but distant. They didn't speak, but he felt their thoughts, a sense of curiosity, as if they were studying him as much as he was studying them. He woke, with a start, the dream vivid, its images etched into his mind like the symbols on his boat. Over the weeks that followed, Tom noticed changes. His sleep was restless, filled with fragments of that starry expanse. He found himself sketching the symbols from the deck, trying to make sense of them, though they matched no language he knew. His fishing trips grew shorter. He avoided the deep waters where the disk had appeared, sticking closer to shore. Friends noticed he was quieter, his eyes often drifting to the sky at dusk, searching for something he couldn't name. He confided in a local librarian, a woman who collected stories of the unexplained, and she urged him to seek hypnosis to uncover the missing time. Under hypnosis, Tom's voice was steady, his words painting a picture of a craft unlike anything earthly. He described being lifted, weightless, from the deck of the Sea Whisper into a space that felt both vast and intimate. The walls were smooth, glowing with a soft light that seemed to come from everywhere. The figures were tall, their forms blurred but graceful, their eyes large and dark, watching him with a quiet intensity. They showed him a screen, a map of stars that stretched beyond imagination, points of light, connected by threads that shimmered like the sea. He felt no pain, only a sense of being seen, understood, as if they were sharing a piece of their world with him. The beings, he said, communicated without words, their thoughts flowing into his mind like waves lapping at the shore. They showed him images of the earth from above, its oceans glowing under a canopy of stars. The experience felt timeless, a moment stretched into eternity. Yet, when he returned to the boat, the sun was high, the world unchanged. The hypnotist noted the calm in Tom's voice, the lack of fear, as if the encounter had left him with a quiet wonder rather than trauma. He spoke of the symbols, describing them as a message, though he didn't know what they meant. They felt important, he said, like a map to somewhere he'd never been. Tom's story spread quietly among the coastal towns, whispered in diners and bait shops. Some dismissed it as a fisherman's tale. Others pointed to the symbols, the stopped watch, the metallic dust. The Sea Whisper became a curiosity. It scratched deck A, silent witness to that dawn encounter. Tom never sought attention, but he kept a journal, filling it with sketches of the star maps from his dreams. He became a stargazer, spending evenings on the shore, his eyes tracing the constellations, wondering if the beings were still out there, watching from the vastness. The sea, like sky, holds its secrets, its depths as mysterious as the stars above. Tom's vision, whether real or a trick of the mind, became a thread in the tapestry of the unknown, a story of a man touched by something beyond the horizon. As you listen, picture the calm ocean, the Sea Whisper rocking gently, the silver disk rising from the waves. Imagine the light, soft and pulsing, drawing you into its glow, a quiet invitation to wonder. The symbols on the deck, the maps in his dreams, they linger, a whisper from the cosmos. Tom returned to his life, his nets, his sea, but a part of him stayed with the stars. As you drift toward sleep, let the ocean's rhythm carry you, its waves blending with the hum of the unknown. The universe is vast, its mysteries endless, but tonight it feels close, its light a gentle guide. leading you into the quiet of the night. In the cool autumn of 1973, deep in Oregon's Cascade Mountains, a young couple named Sarah and James pitched their tent beside a quiet stream. The forest was alive with the rustle of leaves, the air crisp with the scent of pine and damp earth. They were newlyweds, seeking a weekend escape from the bustle of city life, their laughter echoing through the trees as they set up camp. The fire crackled softly, its glow casting shadows on the towering pines, and the stars above peeked through the canopy, bright and endless. Sarah, with her love for nature, and James, always ready for adventure, felt the forest wrap around them, a sanctuary of peace under the vast night sky. It was their second night. The world hushed, save for the gentle gurgle of the stream and the distant call of an owl. They sat by the fire, roasting marshmallows, the warmth of the flames a contrast to the chill settling over the camp. As they talked, sharing dreams of their future, Sarah noticed a light moving through the trees. It was faint at first, a soft glow weaving between the trunks like a lantern, carried by an unseen hand. She pointed it out to James, thinking it might be a ranger or another camper. They called out, their voices swallowed by the forest, but no one answered. The light grew brighter, splitting into 3 distinct orbs, each pulsing with a pale, silvery glow that seemed to hum faintly, like a song just out of reach. James stood, his hand resting on Sarah's shoulder, his curiosity piqued. The orbs moved closer, floating above the ground, their light casting long shadows that danced across the campsite. The fire dimmed, its flames shrinking as if starved of air, and their watches, simple analogs they wore for the trip, stopped ticking, frozen at 11:04 p.m. The air felt heavy, charged with a strange energy, like the stillness before a storm. Sarah clutched James's hand, her heart quickening, but a calm settled over them both, a soothing presence that dulled their instincts to run. The orbs hovered, silent and serene, as if watching them, waiting for something unspoken. The world blurred then, the forest fading into a haze of light. When Sarah and James came to, they were inside their tent, the morning, sun filtering through the canvas. Their gear was scattered, pots, blankets, and their small radio strewn across the grass as if tossed by a restless wind. Their fire was cold, reduced to ash, and the stream flowed as if nothing had happened. Sarah's ankle ached, and when she looked, she found a faint scar, a thin crescent she couldn't recall getting. James felt disoriented, his head heavy, as if he'd slept too long. Their watches were still stopped, and when they checked the time on James's pocket knife, hours had passed. Nearly 6, though it felt like moments. They packed up in silence, the forest no longer feeling like a sanctuary. Back home, they tried to make sense of the night, piecing together fragments that didn't fit. Sarah noticed her compass, usually reliable, spun aimlessly, refusing to point north. James found scratches on his boots, deep and uneven, as if he'd walked over rough stone. Their dreams were vivid, almost too real. Sarah saw herself in a bright, sterile room, lying on a smooth table, surrounded by tall figures with slender limbs and large, dark eyes. James dreamed of floating, weightless, through a space filled with soft light, voices in his mind urging him to stay calm. They didn't speak of it at first, afraid of what it might mean, but the dreams persisted, drawing them back to that night in the woods. A month later, unable to shake the unease, they sought out a hypnotist recommended by a friend. Under hypnosis, their stories unfolded eerily similar despite being recalled separately. Sarah described being lifted from the campsite, the forest fading as she entered a craft with walls that glowed like moonlight. The figures, she said, were gentle, their touch cool as they examined her ankle, their eyes conveying a quiet curiosity. They showed her a screen, a map of lights that pulsed like stars, connected by lines that seemed to trace paths through the sky. She felt no fear, only a sense that they were sharing something important, a glimpse of a world beyond her own. James's account mirrored hers. He spoke of a room with no corners, its walls smooth and warm, lit by a sourceless glow. The figures moved around him, their movements precise, like dancers in a silent ballet. They communicated without words, their thoughts flowing into his mind, calm and clear, telling him he was safe. He saw the same map, a grid of stars that felt alive, as if it held the secrets of the universe. The experience, he said, was brief but timeless, a moment stretched into eternity. When they returned to the tent, the forest was unchanged, but they were not. The hypnotist, struck by their consistency, noted their lack of fear, as if the encounter had left them with wonder rather than dread. Sarah and James never camped again, the memory of that night too vivid, too strange. They kept a journal together, writing down their dreams, sketching the map they'd seen, a cluster of lights that seemed to call to them. Sarah's scar faded slowly, a faint reminder of the touch she couldn't explain. James became a stargazer, spending evenings on their porch, his eyes tracing the constellations, searching for the lights from his dreams. They didn't seek attention or claim to have answers. They only wanted to understand, to hold on to the mystery that had touched their lives. Their story spread quietly, whispered among hikers and locals in the Cascades. Some called it a shared hallucination, others a sign of something greater. The campsite, tucked beside that quiet stream, became a place of legend, its trees holding secrets only the night could tell. Researchers noted similarities to other abduction cases. The orbs, the missing time, the star maps. But Sarah and James stayed out of the spotlight, their lives rooted in the ordinary, even as they carried the extraordinary within them. The forest, with its whispering pines and endless stars, became a symbol of the unknown, a place where the veil between worlds grew thin. Sarah and James's encounter, whether real or imagined, was a moment of connection, a fleeting glimpse of something vast and beautiful. As you listen, picture that campsite, the fire's glow fading, the orbs floating above the trees, their light soft and inviting. Imagine the forest wrapping around you, its quiet, a gentle embrace, pulling you into the mystery of that night. The map of stars, the figure's silent thoughts, hum of the craft. They linger, a whisper from the cosmos. Sarah and James returned to their lives, their bond deepened by the shared unknown. As you drift toward sleep, let the forest's rhythm carry you, its leaves rustling softly, blending with the glow of distant stars. The universe is vast, its secrets endless, but tonight it feels close, its light a soothing guide, leading you into the calm of the night. In the clear, starlit skies over Arizona's desert in the autumn of 1999, a private pilot named Rachel Ellis flew her Cessna 172, cutting through the night at 10,000 feet. The desert below stretched endlessly, a patchwork of shadows and moonlit sand, its silence broken only by the steady hum of her engine. Rachel, a seasoned flyer with a love for the freedom of the skies, was on a routine solo flight, heading to a small airstrip near Tucson. The stars above were sharp and bright, a canvas of light that always felt like home to her. Her instruments glowed softly in the cockpit, the radio quiet except for occasional bursts of static, the world below a distant memory as she soared through the vastness. It was just past 9 p.m. when Rachel noticed a flicker on her instrument panel. The altimeter twitched, the compass needle wavered, and the radio hissed with a low, pulsing static that seemed to hum in her bones. She tapped the gauges, thinking it was a glitch, but then she saw it, a bright object pacing her plane just off her starboard wing. It was no aircraft she recognized, moving too smoothly, too silently, its glow a steady silver that pulsed like a heartbeat. Rachel's training kicked in, her hands steady on the controls, but her heart quickened as she watched the object match her speed, gliding effortlessly through the night. The object drew closer, its shape clearer now, a disk, sleek and featureless, its surface reflecting the starlight like liquid metal. It was larger than her plane, yet made no sound, no turbulence, as if it belonged to the air itself. Rachel tried the radio, calling out to air, traffic control, but the speaker returned only static, a low drone that seemed to echo the object's pulse. Her instruments flickered. Again, the cockpit lights dimming, and her engine sputtered, its rhythm faltering despite her efforts to maintain power. The air felt heavy, charged with an energy that prickled her skin, and a strange calm settled over her, softening the edge of her fear like a lullaby, sung by the stars. The disk moved ahead, hovering in her line of sight, its glow bathing the cockpit in a cool, silvery light. Rachel couldn't look away, her eyes locked on the pulsing rhythm of its surface. The world seemed to blur, the stars streaking into lines, the desert below fading into a haze. Then, darkness. The cockpit, the sky, the hum of the engine, all vanished into a quiet void. When Rachel came to, she was still at the controls, her plane cruising steadily, the desert airstrip in sight. The dashboard clock read 10:03 p.m., an hour later than it should have been. Her fuel gauge showed less than expected, as if she'd flown farther than planned, but her flight log was blank for that missing hour. Rachel landed safely, her hands steady, but her mind racing. She checked her plane, finding no damage, but her compass was off, spinning aimlessly, and her watch was stopped at 9:02 p.m. Her flight jacket was dusted with a fine metallic powder that shimmered faintly before brushing away. She felt different, as if a piece of her had been left behind in the sky. That night, in her motel room, she dreamed of floating in a bright space, surrounded by tall, slender figures with eyes like pools of night. They showed her a grid of lights, a map of stars that pulsed with life, connected by threads of energy that seemed to hum with purpose. She woke with a start, the images vivid, her heart calm but curious. In the days that followed, Rachel couldn't shake the dreams. They came every night, fragments of a bright room, smooth walls, and a sensation of weightlessness. She sketched the star map from her dreams, its patterns unfamiliar yet precise, as if drawn from memory rather than imagination. Her colleagues noticed a change. She was quieter, her gaze often drifting to the sky during breaks. Rachel, always practical, hesitated to share her story, fearing it would tarnish her reputation as a pilot. But the missing hour gnawed at her, a puzzle she couldn't solve. She confided in a friend, a retired air traffic controller with an interest in the unexplained. who suggested hypnosis to uncover what lay hidden in her mind. Under hypnosis, Rachel's words flowed like a gentle stream, painting a picture of a craft that felt alive with energy. She described being lifted from her plane, weightless, into a space with walls that glowed softly, like the inside of a star. The figures were tall, their forms graceful, their eyes large and dark, watching her with a quiet curiosity. They communicated without words, their thoughts flowing into her mind, calm and clear, urging her to relax. They showed her a screen, a grid of lights that moved like a living map, stars connected by lines that pulsed with a rhythm she could feel. One point of light, brighter than the rest, seemed to call to her, though she didn't know why. The beings, she said, were gentle, their touch cool as they examined her hands, their movements precise but unhurried. They showed her images of the earth from above, its deserts and oceans glowing under a canopy of stars. The experience felt timeless, a moment stretched into eternity. Yet, when she returned to her cockpit, the world was unchanged, the desert stretching out below. The hypnotist noted her calm, her lack of fear, as if the encounter had left her with wonder rather than dread. Rachel spoke of the star map as a gift, a glimpse of something vast and beautiful, though its meaning eluded her. Rachel never flew solo again, choosing instead to take passengers or fly with a co-pilot, the memory of that night too vivid to face alone. She kept her sketches, tucking them into a journal she rarely opened, their patterns a mystery she couldn't unravel. Her plane, inspected after the flight, showed faint scratches on its fuselage, lines and curves that matched no known tool. Researchers who heard her story noted similarities to other cases: the disk, the missing time, the star maps. But Rachel stayed out of the spotlight, her life rooted in the skies, even as she carried the unknown within her. The story of Rachel's lost hour spread quietly among pilots and locals, whispered in hangars and small-town diners. Some called it fatigue, a trick of the desert night, but others pointed to the scratches, the stopped watch, the metallic dust. The Arizona skies, vast and endless, became a place of legend, a canvas for stories of the unexplained. Rachel's encounter, whether real or dreamed, was a moment when the universe reached down, touching a pilot who loved the stars. As you listen, picture that desert sky, the Cessna soaring through the night, the silver disk gliding beside it. Imagine the light, soft and pulsing, wrapping you in its glow, a quiet invitation to wonder. The hum of the craft, the stars above, the vastness of the desert. They blend into a soothing rhythm, carrying you toward a place of calm. Rachel's story is one of mystery, of a fleeting connection to something beyond the earth, a glimpse of the cosmos that lingers like a dream. The star map, the figure's silent thoughts, the missing hour, they remain, a whisper from the unknown. Rachel returned to her life, her wings, her skies, but a part of her stayed with the stars. As you drift toward sleep, let the desert's quiet embrace you, its horizon blending with the glow of distant lights. The universe is vast, its secrets endless, but tonight it feels close, its rhythm a gentle lullaby, guiding you into the calm of the night. Ponder what lies just out of reach, hidden in the spaces between the stars. The sky is still there, watching over you, its stars steady and bright. Whether you believe in visitors from distant worlds or simply love the mystery, these stories have been a journey, a soft path through the night. If you're still awake, let your mind wander among the constellations tracing their patterns as they guide you to rest. If you've already slipped into dreams, may they be gentle, filled with the glow of distant lights and the hum of the unknown. The universe holds you close, its quiet a lullaby, its vastness a cradle for your thoughts. Thank you for joining me tonight, for letting these stories carry you across the stars. The desert roads, haas, the mountain clearings, the lakeside docks, they're all out there, waiting for you in the quiet of another night. For now, let the cosmos hold you, its rhythm, steady and calm, its secrets a soft whisper in the dark. The stars are watching, their light a gentle guide, leading you into a peaceful slumber. Rest well, my friends, and may the mysteries of the night carry you softly into dreams where the universe unfolds in endless wonder. Good night.